if you are stressed, it's even harder to do behavior change, and it's even harder to learn new things, because when you're under chronic stress from whatever that might be, right? Being overscheduled, not sleeping enough, having a very stressful job, having a lot to juggle, any of those things tax your nervous system, and then your body is in the state of fight or flight, where you can't necessarily, or it is more difficult to have that cognitive control. There's a reason that going for the ice cream and Netflix is easier, right? Your body is looking for relief.
Hi everyone. Today we're going to chat about wearable devices and mental health. And I have joining me today Catherine Fantauzi, who's the co-founder and CEO of Apollo Neuroscience. It's a company that's developed and launched a scientifically validated device. It's wearable technology that actively improves energy, focus, and sleep. Tell me about wearable devices in general that can help with mental health and other issues.
Sure. So, I mean, I think everyone's kind of familiar, right, with wearable devices. Probably a lot of people have an Apple Watch or an Oura Ring or one of these other wearables. I think the way to think about it is that there are multiple kinds of wearables in the market. One primary one that most people are familiar with is a tracker, right? A tracker started off with like a Fitbit. We're all familiar, right? We were tracking steps. That kind of evolved into more sophisticated devices in terms of sensing that would detect things like cardiovascular metrics or your sleep. And people often use them in an aspirational way, right? They may have a problem, or they may be trying to make something better. And so they purchase a wearable device in order to track something about themselves. So sleep, recovery, one of those things might be on the list. But those are really information providers. So they track some information about yourself. So like your heart rate or your heart rate variability or sleep. And then you have to do something with that information. On the other side, there are other wearables that people use for mental health that are more experiential products. But you have to do something, you have to interact with the data. So a lot of people in your ecosystem might know about the Muse, right, which is a brain sensing headband. You have an EEG, and it's telling you how your meditation's going. Apollo Neuro is a different kind of wearable technology. Apollo Neuro uses touch therapy. And so rather than being a technology there, it tracks you and tells you what to change, or you have to do something, feedback. Apollo is a wearable that uses a touch technology to augment your day-to-day life. And so it uses touch to change how you feel in terms of helping you with these, basically to restore balance to your body so that you can have more control over how you feel and improve your sleep, improve your focus.
So you really are a pioneer. Apollo Neuro is a pioneer in terms of wearable devices.
Yeah, so the way I think about Apollo Apollo is a wearable because we had to build a hardware to deliver our therapy, but Apollo is really kind of a new kind of technology, right? Apollo uses touch, our sense of touch, right, to change how we feel. And we all know that touch changes how we feel, but a lot of us are disconnected from that. And so, where this came from was research at the University of Pittsburgh. We were looking at, so my co-founder is Dr. David Rabin. He's a psychiatrist and a neuroscientist. He was studying chronic stress for over 15 years, and he works with patients who have stress-related conditions, right? And while you can teach someone biofeedback and meditation, what he noticed is that when people went home, they had a really hard time continuing those practices. And we know behavior change is hard, and we know that learning how to meditate and learning how to do breathing exercises is challenging in general, particularly if you're coming at it as an adult, right? And you're not learning that thing as a child, right? Learning a foreign language as an adult is hard. Learning how to meditate as an adult is hard if that was not part of your culture growing up, right? And so the real challenge there is that if you are stressed, it's even harder to do
Mm-hmm.
behavior change, and it's even harder to learn new things, because when you're under chronic stress from whatever that might be, right? Being overscheduled, not sleeping enough, having a very stressful job, having a lot to juggle, any of those things tax your nervous system, and then your body is in the state of fight or flight, where you can't necessarily, or it is more difficult to have that cognitive control. There's a reason that going for the
Mm-hmm.
ice cream and Netflix is easier, right? Your body is looking,
Yeah.
it's not anybody's fault. Your body is looking for relief from whatever it
Mm.
is. And that could be scrolling on Instagram, that could be anything. It's looking for relief.
Can you tell us how this works? How does the sound therapy work?
The sound therapy works by, so very simply, Apollo has a wearable device and a mobile app. So you choose how you want to feel in the same way that you'd pick a playlist for a particular mood. So let's say that you want to, you're at work and you have a bazillion tasks on your list of things to do, and you need to just focus your attention. You need to settle down and get in the zone and focus. You put on clear and focus mode. And the way that it works is it sends these waves to your body. So they feel very gentle. This doesn't feel like a cell phone buzzing. This doesn't feel like a massager. It's barely perceptible. You put it on, and these gentle waves start coming to your body, and it's like white noise for your brain. What it does is it sends a signal to your brain that says, hey, that email isn't going to kill you. And that computer,
Right.
it's not a bear. And what we
Okay.
found is that the people who used Apollo consistently, so used it 3+ hours a day, 5+ days a week, they
Mm-hmm.
had these tremendous changes, right? 19% improvement in their deep sleep, right? 12% improvement
Right.
in their heart rate variability, which is this key metric of resilience to
Amazing.
stress. And the reason that that's important is that it's helping the body recover during the day. So using it during the day for focus, right? Just putting on the mode and then
Mm-hmm.
it plays while you're doing something helps the body recover from stress. And then using it again at night helps you fall asleep more quickly, get more deep sleep, get more REM sleep, because your body's calmer. And when your body is balanced and in a calm state, you can enter sleep more quickly, but you can also get more deep restorative sleep because the body feels safe. And it has this positive reinforcement loop, right? You feel calmer during the day, you get better sleep, you get more sleep, you feel calmer during the day. And it's this nice reinforcing cycle in the same way that a regular meditation practice or a regular movement routine helps to restore balance to the nervous system. Apollo works through the same pathways.
What are the different areas that it can help with?
Apollo helps you recover during your daily activities, right? So the way that we set this up is you can use it to wake you up in the morning. You can use it for focusing during the day, but you can also use it on social mode. So for instance, right now I have it on social and open, which is a mode
Okay.
that gives you a little bit of energy and helps you, stay present with people. And then there's other modes for recovering from stress, meditating, relaxing, and sleeping.
Tell me, what does it look like? Where should people wear it? Do you want to explain that to people?
Sure, yeah. So Apollo can be
Mm.
worn on the wrist or the ankle. And basically, you just put it on your wrist or your ankle and set the volume, the intensity right around where you can feel it. And then, but it doesn't need to be up all the way. I think that's a really important thing for people to know. A lot of people think more is more, right? More is better. But you wouldn't turn your stereo up to 100, right?
Yes.
So you turn Apollo right where you notice it, right where it works for your environment, and then it should fade into the background after a minute or two. You should barely notice it. I use it throughout the
Mm-hmm.
day for work and focus, and then again at night to help me sleep. But you can schedule it so, like for instance, if you know that you have like a 2 p.m. coffee slump, rather than go for the cup of
Mm-hmm.
coffee that's going to disrupt your sleep later, the Apollo can turn on to help you stay awake and keep your energy up and stay focused through the end of the day.
It is Bluetooth, right?
Well, so you can run Apollo completely in airplane mode. So
Okay.
the Apollo only connects, it's not like a device that's constantly communicating back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can set it right now, you set the mode, and the only time it connects via Bluetooth is when you're actually going into the app to turn it on. So it's
I
very
see.
low
Okay.
EMF, but also you can turn on scheduling so that it automatically turns on and run the device completely in airplane mode if you want to.
How did you actually get the idea to create Apollo Neuro? Did the University of Pittsburgh come to you?
Oh, so I mean, this was my co-founder's idea, right? So David was looking at his patients. You know, he works with patients who have PTSD, who have chronic
Hmm.
stress-related conditions, and he noticed, right, that they were looking for a solution. He was trying to teach them new skills, and they worked
Hmm.
really well in the clinic, but then when they went home, they had a hard time maintaining those practices. And we can all kind of relate to that, right? Everyone
Hmm.
sometimes lapses, and it's hard to learn new things when you're stressed. And so Dave mapped out this whole pathway around how touch can engender safety in the body to help the body. Because basically, when the body feels safe, your mind is clear and you have control
Hmm.
over how you feel, right? If you
Yes.
are had a good night's sleep and you get cut off in traffic on the way to the farmer's market, you're going to have a more of a likelihood of saying, hey, that guy must be having a rough day, than if you're totally
Mm.
exhausted, right? When you have a shorter
Yes.
fuse,
Yes,
everyone can relate.
absolutely.
The way we came to Apollo being a wearable device is that we know that there, you know, because it could have been in so many different, like it's a touch therapy, it
Hmm.
could have been in so many different
Hmm.
modalities. The reason we went with a wearable device is because Apollo can be used throughout the day to help you transition throughout the day. So it can help with so many different
Okay.
activities of daily life that making it a wearable made it accessible so
Okay.
that people can use it at the moment that they need it, whenever it is that they need it.
Tell me about the scientific research that you've done.
Sure. So Apollo, again, was a nexus of research at the University of Pittsburgh. The way I came to be part of Apollo is that my background is technology transfer. So it's how to get
Hmm.
things out of labs faster, because on average it takes 17 years from something to go from bench to bedside in the US, right? So it takes 17 years from
Wow,
the time
my
someone
goodness.
discovered something for anyone to use it on average. And so my job is to get those things done faster. And so I got brought in. Dave asked me basically if I would be part of this to help really from the early stage development to make sure that whatever was developed would be really effective for folks using it in their day-to-day lives. And so I joined the team, and we did 3 clinical trials while at the University of Pittsburgh. The first of which was a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled crossover trial. Since then, we've completed 3 more trials that are academic in-lab trials, and we continue to do research, right? I mean, I think we have 13 trials currently underway with academic partners
Oh, good.
across the
Okay.
United States.
So tell me about the trials where it's helped with mental health.
Sure, and so the first trial that we did with a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled crossover trial was actually in healthy people. So, and in this trial that we
Okay.
did with our current users who they use, who are wearing an Aura ring, they're also healthy, right? And what is
Hmm.
really important in both those trials is none of those people are coming to that trial because they're trying to solve like a specific condition. But what we saw in the first trial, the double-blind trial, in the lab is that we gave healthy people a cognitive stress task. So we asked them to do what's called the PACEAT, which is a task where you have to listen to single-digit numbers and add the last 2 you heard every 2 seconds for 3 minutes. It's a really hard
Okay.
task. It's a task they give
Right.
astronauts before they go into space to make sure that they have
Whoa.
like a high tolerance for futility. And it basically
Okay.
creates the experience of running out of time on a standardized test or being late in traffic and not being able to find a parking spot. And so what normally
Okay.
happens is that people's heart rate goes up, their heart rate variability, which is this metric of how well they're responding to stress, how quickly they're
Mhm.
being able to, how resilient they are to stress, goes down, and their performance goes down. Because we've all been there where you're got so many things going on, and you lose your keys, right? Or you take the wrong turn, or whatever it is, because you don't have that control anymore. And
Mm.
what we found is that and we did this with Apollo vibrations, or what would become Apollo vibrations, no vibrations, and
Mhm.
then control vibrations. So something more akin to like a cell phone buzz or
Okay.
slow tapping. And what we found is that when you used Apollo frequencies, we improved heart rate variability. And for everyone whose HRV goes up, their cognitive performance went up, some up to 25%.
Okay.
And so what we essentially did was we induced a flow state. We calmed the body down so people could think more clearly and had more cognitive control, so they did better on the task. And this was extremely compelling to me, right, when I saw that, because I was like, whoa, we really did something. We really
Right.
changed cardiovascular metrics and metrics of cognitive performance through this touch therapy. And that was the most interesting for me, because what it showed is by using the Apollo during the day and by using the Apollo at night, we actually helped change the balance of the nervous system as measured by people's cardiovascular metrics and their sleep metrics. So we saw, again, like a 4% reduction in average heart rate and resting heart rate, 12% improvement in their heart rate variability, 19% improvement in their deep sleep, increased how long people were
Wow.
sleeping. It was incredible, right? Incredible to see that, and incredible to see that in the real world, right? You can do a trial in the lab, but
Mm.
you don't necessarily know that things are going to be consistent in the real world. And before
Yes,
we
yes.
ever launched Apollo, we did the 3 clinical trials at the University of Pittsburgh, and we saw those results coming in. We tested Apollo in beta for 18 months across 3,000 people to make sure that we would get consistency of results in the real world. And when we saw that, that's when we launched the product. We do have
Fabulous.
studies ongoing now for various conditions that are worsened by stress, and those results will come out, right? So
Okay.
folks who have issues with attention, other stress-related, traumatic stress-related conditions. And those studies are ongoing, and we'll publish the results when completed. And all those studies are being conducted actually by academic partners across the US.
Talk to me more about the sleep aspect of it, because as you know, a lot of people are struggling with sleep these days.
We lead these really hectic lives, right? Stress makes sleep harder. And stress makes sleep harder for two
Mm.
primary reasons. One, it makes it harder for you to fall asleep, right? Because your body thinks there's a threat. If you think about us as
Mm.
from an evolutionary standpoint, why, if stress used to be that there was a bear outside the cave, it is advantageous to the human for survival not to fall asleep if there's a bear outside, right? Because you're vulnerable when you
Yes.
sleep. So in order
Mm.
to sleep well, you have to feel safe, right? You
Mm.
have to feel, your body has to know that it's okay. And so how Apollo works is you use it during the day to help with stress management, right? So
Hmm.
to help you focus. And stress management doesn't necessarily mean that something bad's happening. It just could mean that you have a lot to do that day. Because when you think about
Right.
it, being on Zooms, having lots of meetings, having to travel back and forth, having to get dinner on the table, all these different things are tiring, right? It's sometimes a lot to do. And a lot of folks, that use Apollo are actually really active, engaged overachievers, right? We put a lot
Mm.
on our plate. Um, and so people use Apollo during the day to help them with focus and energy and staying social and all that. And then they use it at night to help
Hmm.
them kind of unwind and do that reset from the rest of the day and transition into sleep. And so the way that that works is by stimulating the body to be in a recovery state during the day. Your resting heart rate's lower, your resiliency is
Hmm.
up, you feel calmer. And so that when you go to transition to bedtime, you're not wired and tired anymore, right? You're able to just relax and get sleepy, not exhausted, but sleepy, and then
Hmm.
transition into a sleep state more easily. It kind of just softens the edges. It's like a nice accompaniment to the day. And then it helps transition into sleep. And that compounding effect is that by helping the body relax into sleep more quickly and being in a calmer state when you fall asleep allows you to get more deep sleep. A lot of us are sleeping, but it might be a lot of light sleep, and you need deep sleep and
Mm.
REM sleep for memory consolidation, for improved cognitive performance, and to feel well rested and energized the next day. And so Apollo works by helping the body feel safe and calm, and then helping you sleep as a result. And if you sleep well, a lot of things are resolved, right? The whole world looks a
Hmm.
lot brighter after a really nice, good
Oh,
sleep.
absolutely, absolutely. And tell me, how long do people typically have to use it before they begin to notice the benefits?
So It kind of depends on your baseline. So when you think about that, and the way I liken this is, we saw that in the lab, people's bodies were changing within 3 minutes, right? That's what we saw. And you could measure it, and you could see that their cognitive performance improved. But those were people, but they were all under stress, right? So they were going to definitely notice, in the same way that when you have a headache and you take something for your headache, you notice that your headache went away, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
the way I would say is that if you are feeling stressed out, overwhelmed, tired, you're having trouble sleeping, people notice the effects very quickly, right? It could be immediately or it could be within a few days. But when you really get the benefit is when you use Apollo consistently. And you need to use Apollo for at least 30 days to start to really see these benefits, because it's a retraining of the nervous system to be in a calmer state. And so, for instance, when you start meditating, you might feel that meditating is actually frustrating. But if you don't, you may notice a little bit of benefit, but you don't notice these big changes in your life until it's been a long time, right? It takes a while to integrate that into your life. Same thing with exercise. You may exercise a few times and notice that you feel a little bit better, but if you integrate exercise into your daily life as a routine, you really start to see the benefits. And so the nice thing about Apollo is that it's really easy. All you have to do is put it on and press a button. That's the most important thing, though, is the consistency of the use and sticking with it, because for some people it may take a few weeks for them to notice, in the same way that an exercise routine or a meditation practice takes a little while for you to notice these bigger changes in your life, like feeling more settled, calmer, having more focus, staying in a state of flow more easily, sleeping better, that sort of thing.
Are there any disadvantages to using this device?
So we actually spent a long time looking at that, because we never came to Apollo as with the perspective of starting a company, right? We started Apollo and what would become Apollo because we were looking to develop a solution to a problem. We wanted people to have more balance. We wanted people to feel more in control of their day-to-day lives. Stress makes you feel out of control. And when people feel in control, when people are calmer, they make better decisions. They feel better. They have better control over their mood, and they have more control over how they pay attention to things, which is our most important skill. What you pay attention to makes a tremendous amount of difference for your mindset. And so when we developed Apollo, we first tested it in the lab, but before we ever went to develop the product for market use, we wanted to test it in the real world, because we wanted to make sure that using Apollo wouldn't be habit forming, that it wouldn't change something negatively. And so we wanted to make sure that Apollo would consistently work. We wanted to see that it wasn't habit forming. We wanted to see that it would not become something that people need more and more of just to feel calm. And what we found was incredible, which was that actually using it more made you more sensitive to its effects. And Apollo, when you use it consistently, it does a similar thing. You use it and your body goes, oh, hey, the Apollo's on. And it just goes with that stimulation. Wow. It enters that zone in the same way that when your most favorite song comes on, you can't help but dance, because your body remembers all of the things associated with that song, right? It's the move, it's the energy, it's the whole environment that you created yourself with the song. And so Apollo kind of works in a similar way. It's kind of like a playlist for your body instead of for your ears.
Oh, fabulous. That was fabulous. Thank you, Catherine. That was such an incredible chat. Thank you for listening to this chat. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to this page. Please subscribe to our podcast on Apple and Spotify, Wellness Curated. And follow us on Instagram, Wellness Curated, the number 1. Thank you.